where we've been, or what we've done, we all have one simple thing in common. Everyone has a backstory.
Well, it's another story. Yeah. We looking for change? Hello? We want to see some change? Or do we want to be change? Everybody here needs to be the change, right? This is not a spectator sport. This planet requires participation by all of us.
Hey, welcome to Backstory. I'm Cowboy Bob. Let me begin this little party by thanking my friend Michael Shields, who is the spokesperson you just heard. In his message, I found profound because this is something that if you want to be involved in your own future, you need to get involved in the present, and that's an absolute necessity. I'm Cowboy Bob, and this is called Backstory. And sitting on the other side of this table, actually in another room and thousands of miles away, is Dr. Dandy here. Dr. Daryl Neely, who is the producer and the principal driver behind all of this. A real quick disclaimer, and I will put this, we'll figure this out, Daryl, how this goes in. But I want it known openly here that first and foremost, I am not the owner of this operation, nor am I being compensated in any way, shape, or form for my participation, my comments, or my opinions. They are mine, and I offer them freely. I am not here to start a fight, although I will agitate an argument. I'm not here to judge, although I would question all those who do on the validity of their judgments. And I put that not only to the listening audience and the public at whole, but I put that against the government and the leadership of our country. Good afternoon, Daryl, and how are you? I'm going to lose this because it's really kind of hard to deal with a headset and a hat, too. So I'll put it over here where people can see it, as it is kind of my logo. So one of the things you had asked me, and I'll address this real quick while you puff on that thing you're smoking there. Yeah. I was a television producer in Cleveland ADI. I did not get there by any legitimate course of action. I got there almost by accident. I had been in advertising and marketing. I was a media consultant. And my primary business started as I had been a chef de cuisine in Sedona, Arizona, where I gained a name and a reputation for my acts and my abilities. Progressed them around the country to various resorts and activities of that nature. Ended up back in Northeast Ohio during that Great Recession of the 80s, where my wife had grown up and she had some associations and connections. So we went back there to be around people that we knew and liked and who seemed to like us. And in the process of consulting on various restaurants and fixing the problems that they had incurred, which they weren't making profit, and I was working through a CPA group and a law firm who would send me out on assignment, say, you know, go deal with this client of ours and help see if you can help them fix their thing. And so I started using media as one of the tools for reaching out to promote a restaurant or a club or events, etc. I spent some time working for Capital Entertainment as a concert promoter on the national level, and did numerous concerts and events across the Great Lakes region over a period of years until that entity sort of went away. A lot of stories there, but they're not relevant for this program. In that time, I got to meet a lot of celebrities, spend a lot of time with the rock and roll and country music heroes of my youth, who now were answering to me because I was carrying the paycheck for the show. And I had to clipboard backstage, and that was kind of how things went down. From there, I ended up in radio by accident as a marketing consultant. And from the radio station trying to develop that, I said, because I didn't know any better, didn't have an education, right? So I didn't know that you couldn't put radio and television in the same box. that they wouldn't work with each other. They were competing for advertising, you see. The television station is trying to get as much market share as it can get from advertising revenue. So is the radio, and they constantly have been in competition with each other over like a 40-year time frame. I didn't know this. I figured we needed some promo on TV, and I didn't have a budget, so I went to the station and I cut a deal. And so at the end of this, it came down to a story of, they said, we are taking away the platform that you've been using. And I said, I think you're mistaken. You shouldn't do that. And they said, well, we'll tell you what. Seeing as how you represent the primary advertisers for this platform, if you will stand up for the fees every week, month by month for 13 weeks, then we won't cancel the platform. But you have to put up the money for the show every week, and then you keep the advertisers and you take care of the business side. And again, because I wasn't educated and didn't know really what I was getting into, but thought it was very flattering for the moment and offered me a lot of power in the marketplace, I went, sure, why not? So I went home to ask my wife, which is a running joke, and my wife agreed that it was a good idea. We should do this. And so we did. And I ended up taking over a television show, which would last for 8 years from the time I took it on. Launched a couple of other programs, did radio production events, continued to put on concerts, events, and activities, including being involved in the Pro Football Hall of Fame events for eight and a half years, and was part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame grand opening in Cleveland, among many other things along the way. Eventually, I moved back out to northern Arizona, where I'm at today. I live quietly by myself. My wife passed a couple of years back. Oh, yes, I feel bad about that too. And if anybody cares, in a couple of days, it would have been her 64th birthday, but she didn't stick around long enough to see that or let me celebrate it. So I'm here, and I had nothing better to do. And Daryl and I had crossed paths on Facebook and a couple of other social media kind of junky things. And we sort of hit each other with a kind of, we have a lot of the same attitudes, very much in that ivory and ebony kind of thing. And so we started chatting, and one thing led to another, and I intervened in a couple of his radio productions, and he said, hey, you know what, you need your own show. And here we are, and here is Backstory. Now, to make a point, Backstory is not starting today. Backstory has actually been around for several years. It was a pilot concept that was put together to support what was going to be a internet television channel, but never matured. It just didn't happen for a lot of reasons. But I created this program concept, and the idea was because I had this connection in the music world to get my old friends, those that are still alive, and bring them to the forefront and talk about, any new music they were doing, emphasizing music they had done, and talking about current affairs of the day. Sort of a kind of a remix of the old Big Clark premise, where you sit down and talk to the talent and discuss conversations that interest them while you promote their music and the sales of their albums, all of which no longer exist, you see, because there's no longer really record labels anymore, and there's really no music stores, and there's really no concerts. It's all controlled by a very small elite group of people, and they decide what does and doesn't happen. And so consequently, guys like me end up on the outskirts with nothing to do. So when someone like Daryl comes to me and says, hey, Bob, since you're sitting around all day with your thumb in your ear smoking that pipe, why don't you do a show and, tell people the things you think they need to hear or talk about? And I said, gee, I'm bored. I'll do it. I got nothing else going on, so why not do this? So, again, good afternoon, Daryl, and welcome to our show.
Oh my God, you got me dying over here. My throat is gone. I'm laughing too hard.
Well, if you would, I can't speak for your health, man. That's a personal problem.
Well, I have a question.
I have answers.
Okay, well, I'm getting ready to throw them at you. With all that experience, that TV, radio, broadcasting, people, knowing people, and running around, have you experienced the society we're living today in your life?
In what manner?
the fakeness, the lies.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, so look, to go back, now I will tell you, I wrote a book, or I'm writing a book, which I will tell the viewing audience here, Daryl has not read. Primarily because I would have sent it to him to read, except he's so dang busy he can't return phone calls. So consequently, I figured he didn't have time to actually read the book. And he would tell me, oh, yeah, I saw it. It's great. Sounds good. He read 2 pages and put it on his shelf and forgot about it.
Hey.
So he hasn't been there yet, but we will get there. But in the book, which is entitled The Journeys of a Wolf Dancing and a Cat Prancing, being the tales of myself and my wife as we took off back in 1976 together to hitchhike around America, my being an itinerant chef and her being a dining room manager. So we were a nice working team for resort facilities, that kind of thing. And I can't quit looking at my image on this other monitor, Daryl. I'm sorry, I'm trying real hard. But it's that, look at yourself in the monitor. And so at any rate, so in that storyline, I ran away from home for a number of reasons. You have to read the book. I ended up at one point up in the Dakotas with a kid I met through carnivals and other things. Toby Tyler, if you know the story, is about a kid who ran away with a circus and became circus boy. You might, older people like myself would remember Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees playing in the TV series called Circus Boy, where he was the star of the show. Of course, at the time he was a juvenile, maybe 8-10 years old. I ran away with the carnival. It was at the Arizona State Fair. Things were going south. It was that time of year, for those of you who recall, when the teachers start sending home letters to your parents telling them that you're an inadequate student. And that creates all kinds of ripples and repercussions, and I didn't want to face them, so I booked. I ended up in the Dakotas, and there I met an old medicine man shaman, if you will, and he told me a story. And the story was about the wolf dancing. The short version there being that the wolf was the only animal on the planet at the time that was friendly to man. And so consequently, the creator was not happy with the rest of the mammal beings who had treated man so shabbily, and he punished them all, but he only slightly punished the wolf and made the wolf man's best friend and companion for all time. Thus, we have dog today, okay, man's best friend. And at the end of this tale, he expresses that one of the gifts that the great creator bestowed upon the wolf, the species thereof of the wolf, was that when the time came and the great creator came back, this will sound very Christian-like if you listen to it, when the great creator came back again amongst the creatures that he had created, it would be the wolf who would stand up again on his hind legs, and he would dance and he would sing to the praise of the coming of the creator. And this would be a very special tribute given only to the wolf. Then the old man turned around, looked at me and said, "You are the wolf dancing. Go follow your path." Never understood it at the time, didn't grasp the depth of the meaning of it. But over the years, I would become sort of that messenger, sort of that carrier of the word of the belief. Not to be confused with the forms of Christianity, Judaism, Muslimism, Hinduism, any of that. This is more a spiritualization of the planet, of the universe, of existence, which we will get into, I'm sure, in future programs, which is why Daryl wanted me here. That and because I have some interesting friends that he's aware of, and he figures I can bring something to the story. But at any rate, so the book, The Wolf Dancing, and much of what we will talk to, I will refer back to, you need to get the book. And at some point, when it's done being edited, it will actually be available, but it's not available now. It hasn't been entirely edited. And as I have a fourth grade education, I missed out on the punctuation, sentence structure, and all that good junk that they taught in grade school. And so consequently, although I was not indoctrinated or brainwashed by the public school system of the era, I did miss out on a few things. So as Paul Simon would say, my lack of education didn't hurt me a lot, but there are some negatives to that point at the other end of the story. And when the book is ready to be presented in a proper publishable form. I don't know how to put that. It will be available, and that's part of why my agenda behind doing this show was because one has to put out some PR if one wants to unload a book. Otherwise, people will never know it's there. Right?
Wow.
Okay.
That was a mouthful. Now, how about this? Why don't you tell the public about, well, you already did your life and your travel, but what is your mission?
Well, it goes back to the wolf dancing.
Uh-oh.
If you contemplate the idea behind it, forget the story, and it's available, and I'm happy to share it. It's just an old legendary tale, you know, one of those stories, right? In the beginning, God created. But from that, I took a number of things, and one of those was that there needed to be a message. And if, regardless of your philosophy or how you were brought up, and I put that in cultural religious structure, okay, so regardless of where you came from here, okay, the simple fact is that we're living in a time when we are becoming aware, or more aware, I think, what they call the Great Awakening, the idea that man plays a slightly different role than the constant game of Monopoly we seem to be playing right now. There's more to all this. There have been a lot of people in a lot of ways who've come out and tried to, and I believe that is to share